The quantum spurs on my boots left trails of blue fire as I gripped the safety harness in the dropship's belly, watching the tactical display paint a picture that would have made lesser men turn tail and run. Below us, Guangzhou Prime sprawled across an entire continent, a weapons depot world that had been turned into the most heavily fortified planet in human space. Knight Commander Jackson Davis, to all units, I called into the comm, my helmet's head showing 47 dropships screaming toward the surface through a hell of anti-aircraft fire. Remember, boys, we're not here to win pretty. We're here to hold the line until the fleet arrives. Around me, 200 of the finest Texas Knights ever assembled checked their weapons one final time. Men from every corner of Texas space. New Austin, San Antonio Prime, Dallas Colony, and dozens of other worlds where the Lone Star still flew proud. Each one knew the odds. Each one had volunteered anyway. "Sir," Night Lieutenant Cole Ranger called out from his position near the drop bay doors. "Rebel jamming is heavy, but we're getting scattered reports. Looks like they've got mech battalions moving to intercept, plus enough drones to darken the sky." I touched the brim of my helmet's integrated Stetson and checked the charge on my twin 1911S. Below us, the planet's surface erupted in flowers of fire as our escort fighters traded shots with rebel interceptors. Through the chaos, I could see the massive fortress complexes that dotted the landscape like metallic mountains. "How many are we looking at, Cole?" "Conservative estimate?" He paused, consulting his tactical readout. 2 million human rebels, maybe 6 million battle droids. They've been building up for this rebellion for years, sir. Got factories running day and night, churning out knockoff knight armor and combat mechs. The math was simple and brutal. 200 knights against 8 million enemies on a planet designed to repel invasion forces 10 times our size. But that's what made us Texas Knights. We'd never met odds we couldn't spit in the eye of. "Attention all Knights," I broadcast on the general channel. "Intel reports confirm we're looking at a target-rich environment. Enemy forces are equipped with stolen Knight technology, inferior copies but still dangerous. Their mechs are big and slow, their armor's bulky and poorly powered. Hit 'em fast, hit 'em hard, and remember, we don't retreat. We reload." A chorus of acknowledgments came back over the comm. 200 voices united in determination that defied all logic and mathematics. That's when the surface-to-air missiles found us. The sky erupted in fire and shrapnel as a full salvo of guided munitions slammed into our formation. I watched dropship after dropship disappear in balls of flame, each explosion taking 12 good Knights with it. My own ship bucked and twisted as the pilot fought to keep us in the air. "We're taking heavy casualties," Knight Captain Wade Houston reported, his voice tight with pain. "Lost 12 ships so far." Through my helmet's external cameras, I watched another dropship spiral toward the ground, its hull split open like a broken egg. Somewhere in that wreckage were 12 more Knights who'd never see home again. "All remaining ships, emergency landing protocols," I ordered, feeling our own transport shudder under missile impacts. "Get us on the ground before they pick us all off." The landing was less a controlled descent than a barely managed crash. Our dropship hit the surface of Guangzhou Prime like a meteor, skidding across armored landing pads before slamming into a rebel supply depot. Steam and smoke poured from the wreckage as we kicked open the drop bay doors and poured out into hell itself. The first thing that hit me was the sheer scale of the enemy response. Rebel forces were converging on our landing sites from every direction, columns of 30-foot-tall combat mechs that moved with the ponderous grace of walking buildings, clouds of drones that blocked out the sun, and endless streams of infantry and bulky power armor that looked like cheap imitations of our own. "Form up!" I roared, both 1911S already spitting quantum-enhanced death at the nearest rebel squad. "Defensive perimeter, make every shot count!" The surviving Knights, maybe 150 of us left, moved with the precision of a machine built for war. Cole's plasma rifle carved through a squad of rebel infantry, their knockoff armor sparking and failing under the assault of genuine Texas technology. Wade's quantum sword sang as it deflected incoming fire, the blade's matrix turning energy beams back on their sources. But for every rebel we dropped, 10 more seemed to take their place. "Incoming mechs!" Night Sergeant Buck Austin called out, his heavy laser cannon already tracking the massive war machines stomping toward our position. Count 30, 40, hell, I've lost count. The rebel mechs were impressive in their own way, towering monsters of steel and ceramic armor, bristling with weapons that could level city blocks. But they were also clumsy, their movements betraying the inferior technology at their hearts. Where a true knight moved with grace enhanced by quantum harmonics, these machines lumbered forward like drunken giants. "Target the knee joints," I called out, putting 3 rounds through the actuator housing of the nearest mech. The giant war machine stumbled, its pilot fighting to maintain balance as hydraulic fluid sprayed from the wound. Their armor's thick, but their engineering sloppy. "Knight." Captain Billy Corpus demonstrated the point by putting his quantum spear straight through a mech's power coupling. The 30-foot giant toppled backward like a felled tree, crushing a squad of rebel infantry who hadn't been fast enough to get out of the way. But more kept coming. Always more. The drones were the worst part. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands, swarming overhead like mechanical locusts. They weren't individually dangerous. Cheap construction and limited AI made them easy pickings for trained knights, but their sheer numbers turned the sky into a constellation of death. "Air support would be nice about now," Cole muttered, his rifle carving through a formation of attacking drones. "Air support's 48 hours out," I replied, ducking as a drone kamikaze exploded overhead. "We hold until then." 48 hours? Wave's voice carried that peculiar mix of disbelief and dark humor that marked a true Texas knight. "Hell, Commander, why didn't you say it was going to be easy?" The fighting settled into a rhythm that would have broken lesser men. Wave after wave of rebel forces crashed against our positions like tide against stone. Their power-armored troops advanced in human waves, their bulky suits making them slow but dangerous. Their mechs provided fire support, 30-foot giants raining destruction from weapons that could crack bunkers. And always, always the drones. Endless clouds of them, replacing their losses faster than we could shoot them down. But we were Texas Knights, and we'd been forged in traditions that went back to the Alamo itself. Every shot was aimed, every movement was calculated, every death was paid for in rebel blood. "Perimeter's holding on the north side," Knight Lieutenant Tom Brazos reported, his plasma pistols spinning death at close range. "But they're massing for another push. Looks like they're bringing up heavy artillery." Through the smoke and chaos, I could see the rebel guns being moved into position, massive rail cannons that could turn our defensive positions into craters. The rebels had finally decided to stop playing around. "All knights, prepare for artillery bombardment," I called out. "Find hard cover and stay low. When they're done, we'll show them what happens when you mess with Texas." The barrage came like the wrath of God himself. Rail cannon rounds the size of hover cars slammed into our positions with enough force to crack planetary crust. Plasma mortars turned the air itself into fire. Energy beams that could melt starship armor carved furrows in the armored ground. When the smoke cleared, we'd lost another 20 knights, but the survivors were madder than hornets in a honeypot. "That all they got?" Buck called out, his armor scorched but his spirit unbroken. "Apparently not," Cole replied, pointing toward the horizon, where more rebel forces were advancing. "Looks like they're bringing friends to the party." The second wave was twice the size of the first. More mechs, more drones, more infantry in their bulky knockoff armor. But something had changed in the knights who remained. We'd taken their best shot and stayed standing. Now it was our turn. "Knights of Texas," I called out, drawing both 1911s as the enemy tide approached. "Remember the Alamo, remember Meridian Station, remember every innocent soul we've sworn to protect. Today we show these rebels what happens when you challenge the Lone Star." The charge that followed would be talked about in the halls of the Knight Academy for generations. 130 Texas nights against impossible odds, quantum spurs leaving trails of fire as we met the enemy head-on. Our weapons sang with the combined harmonics of tradition and technology, each shot carrying the weight of generations. Cole's plasma rifle carved through rebel formations like a sword through silk. Wade's quantum blade deflected mech weapons fire back at their sources. Buck's heavy cannon turned enemy armor into abstract art. All around me, knights fought with the fury of men defending not just territory, but everything they held sacred. But numbers tell. They always tell. By the end of the second day, we were down to 80 knights. By the end of the third, 50. The rebels kept coming, wave after wave, their factories working overtime to replace their losses, while we had no such luxury. "Commander," Cole called out during a brief lull in the fighting, his armor cracked and his voice hoarse. "Rebel forces are massing for what looks like a final push. Everything they've got left." I looked around at the knights who remained, 50 of the finest warriors Texas had ever produced, each one battered but unbroken. Around us, the defensive perimeter we'd carved out of rebel territory was littered with the wreckage of enemy machines. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. "How long until reinforcements?" Wade asked, checking the charge on his weapons. 6 hours, I replied, watching the enemy formations building on the horizon. "Think we can hold 6 more hours, boys?" Buck laughed, the sound carrying clearly over the comm. "Hell, Commander, we've held this long. What's 6 more hours against the impossible?" The final assault came at dawn of the 4th day. Every rebel unit left on the planet seemed to be part of it. Mechs in formations that stretched to the horizon, drones that turned the sky black, infantry in numbers that defied counting. They came in a tide of steel and fury that should have broken any force in human space. But we were Texas Knights, and breaking wasn't in our vocabulary. The battle raged for hours, our defensive perimeter shrinking as the rebels pressed closer. Every knight who fell took dozens of enemies with him. Every position that was overrun was retaken with interest. We fought with everything we had, weapons, fists, and pure Texas determination. That's when the sky lit up with friendly fire. "This is Admiral Jado McHenry of the Texas Fleet," came the voice over our comms. "Sorry we're late to the party, boys. Hope you saved some dancing partners for us." The orbital bombardment that followed was a thing of beauty. Rebel positions that had seemed impregnable vanished in flowers of fire, enemy formations scattered like leaves in a hurricane. The tide that had seemed unstoppable suddenly found itself caught between the anvil of Texas Knights and the hammer of the fleet above. When the smoke cleared and the last rebel surrendered, we counted our losses. Of the 200 knights who dropped onto Guangzhou Prime, 28 remained standing. But we'd held the line. We'd bought the time the fleet needed to arrive. We'd shown the galaxy that some forces can't be calculated in mere numbers. "Damn fine work, boys." Admiral McHenry's voice crackled over the comm as relief ships began landing around our position. "The whole galaxy's going to know what happened here. 200 knights against 8 million rebels, and you held until we could finish the job." I looked around at the knights who remained, 28 warriors who'd faced impossible odds and refused to yield. Each one bore the scars of the battle, but their spirits burned as bright as ever. "Just doing our job, Admiral," I replied, touching the brim of my helmet's Stetson. "That's what Texas Knights do. We stand, we fight, and we never, ever give up." The rebellion on Guangzhou Prime was over. The weapons depots were back in loyal hands. And somewhere in the halls of power, politicians would debate the cost and effectiveness of sending so few against so many. But they'd never understand the truth that every Texas Knight knew in his bones. Sometimes the odds don't matter. Such tradition and determination hit harder than any weapon. Sometimes the impossible is just another word for Tuesday. The eyes of Texas had been upon Guangzhou Prime, and they'd seen heroes stand against the dark. That was enough. That was everything. Because that's what we do. We're Texas Knights, and we don't know the meaning of the word surrender. Many thanks to my channel members and Pathfinders. You all make these videos possible. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.